And it said this is 4.014% of your hunting public who apply only on paper, and none of these clients would be eligible unless they switch to applying on the web. And you've just passed a resolution or just turned down a deal saying that you're going to have people still apply on paper. So if you pass this and don't postpone it for a year, you're going to have 4% of your hunting public not eligible to do this. So I would suggest that since you're letting them apply on paper, you don't want to eliminate that. So I think this proposal should be brought back like the paper one is, because you're going to eliminate 4% of your hunting public if you go ahead with this, because it's only going to be, the alternate is only going to be for electronic applications. So you're going to lose a lot of people with this, and I don't think it's fair to them. And then also, if you brought it back, I think you ought to change it, because except for sheep and mountain goat tags returned after July 15th, there are no refunds. I think you need to change that. So if you do go with this reallocation, the original hunter should get his money back. There's no reason to keep two fees for the same tag. So there should be refunds to the original hunter, and that should be changed if you bring it back. But I'd hate to see 4% of your hunting public not be able to apply for alternate tags if this goes forward. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Mike Reese from the Southern Nevada Coalition for Wildlife. I echo Gerald Lent's comments that we are eliminating the 4% of the people. Hopefully that number goes down that do the online. The systems people aren't up here, but I'm under the impression that when you apply online, NDOW people take that and convert it to an electronic form, if you will, so it can be entered into the system. If that's the case, why can't they end up going in with the draw and notifying them that with a fee?
I see Mr. Sefton come up here to clarify that question.
The problem with doing it is the turnaround and trying to get the money, because with the people who have applied online, if they tick a box that says, I'll take a tag no matter what, we have their credit card, we can immediately hit it. With the people who are on paper, we have to somehow reach them, tell them, tie up that tag, somehow reach them and get their money in by check or whatever, apply it, and then issue the tag. So we were trying to come up with a process that would allow us to plow through 720 tags. We wouldn't be able to do it with including the paper tags and the delays associated therein.
With time being of the essence, isn't there not a way, even if we're restricting the amount of time allocated for an online or for a paper application, to say, look, if you're applying by paper, you've only got 7 days, whereas the deadline's closing. If you're doing it online, it's...
So do we hold that tag tied up for 7 days and then go ahead and issue it to the next person who might also be paper? That's the problem with this, is we were trying to create a process that would allow us to go... Right now, the process that we have is 2 days, basically, to try and reach somebody and get their concurrence. This was to get immediate and be able to proceed. Well, we didn't have an issue with the money with the approach of the applications online. We do have an issue with the money with the paper applicants. That's the problem, is we have no vehicle to collect from them other than having them send money in. And that stretches us back out. Instead of it being a 5-minute process, it puts a delay of days or weeks in there is the problem. Even if you said 7 days, I think you might as well tank the thing. There's really no point in even proceeding with it.
Okay, let me ask this question then. Would it not be possible that somebody's going to apply paper? Let's say their fees, in argument's sake, say $30. If we have a regulation that says that if you want to be considered for an alternate tag, your fee is $60. In other words, you're prepaying that so that you already have that money, and it's just a matter of, guess what? You didn't get on the original draw, but because you're in with the mix with the alternate.
The problem is, I think the authority to collect fees, and I'll defer to Maureen and the agency on that, but the other issue is we do issue a refund for those people, and we kind of have to put them all together in one chunk and do the refund at one time. And so we give, those people actually do prepay and they have the money there, but they're getting a refund now and have to, according, my understanding is according to the regs. So.
Okay, I'm just trying to find a way to even if it's difficult for a person, at least have an opportunity. If you applied online, handwritten, you still are able to get one of the alternate tags if it comes up. That's all I was trying to accomplish.
And we're going down the road of deliberation during public comment, so we probably need to.
Thank you.
So, any other public comments? Rex?
Here, I'll share.
Can I sit in your lap?
Corey?
My chair.
For the record, Corey Light of Lincoln Cab. We really supported a lot of the parts of this that we're trying to tighten things up. We really like the idea that you have the option when you go online to say I can be an alternate. Our biggest issue was the cutoff period that had been mentioned several times yesterday. The 14 working days. We didn't really know. In this day and age where the results come out a lot quicker, and that was voted in a couple of years ago, we're basically by Memorial Weekend, you know what's going on. If not within a week or two of that, we just thought the cutoff should come back the other direction a little ways, because there's such a variation in starting dates for the hunts, and the majority of the hunts are the deer hunt that we're dealing with. We just thought it should be like 30 calendar days or something farther out on the cutoff. That was our only recommendation.
Okay. Rex?
Rex Flowers. At our cab, we voted to accept this. We looked at the possibility because we did vote to go to online, but not for another year, so we had to take that into consideration that this would end up cutting out paper applicants. But again, paper applicants choose to be paper applicants. And I think that's where we have to get to. They're not forced to be paper applicants. So it's a matter of choice, okay? We did feel that we should go the other way, and we should have a lesser time rather than 14 business days. We felt it should have been 10 business days.
Okay. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Rain?
Couple things. One question was brought up there, and hopefully we can clarify it, Mr. Sefton. That would be when paper applications, you already have the cash, you have to return it, but by checking that box, couldn't that say that means we hold on to the money until start of season? I mean, that implies you can keep it?
I think this regulation wouldn't support that, but maybe a regulation could.
Yeah.
I don't know, Maureen?
I've never been asked that question before. I think holding funds, I think there would be a concern fiscally holding those funds, but I don't know.
With their consent, because they checked the box, because they're still applying for a tag and they might still get it?
I think I would have to
Above
write
our
the
pay grade.
regulation. Yeah, I would have to write the regulation to allow for that, because this all is right now directed toward electronic applications and checking a box.
Okay.
It would have to be written accordingly.
That, and then I'll go on with some comment about this since we're going to vote on it. I think there's too much here. I think the problem with this is it unnecessarily overly complicates our system. It's going to make for a lot more hunter confusion in the matter. Right now, it's pretty clear as to what people are going to do. I don't think our system is at all in any way broken, and I don't think this is going to fix any breaks. There's a few minor cleanup points that we almost can't separate out from the rest the way it's written. So I can't see how I could support this. It opens up too many cans of worms that we don't have any answers to, all dealing with the alternate list, most of them. We still don't know, is it going to be a public list? Is it going to be a private list? Is the only person can get it is the ones like we were saying yesterday if you call up? We haven't really resolved that, and that's highly important. It opens up the door to potential, fraud that's been discussed in the various ways were discussed yesterday. And I don't think that's necessary. I think the system, the way it is highly reasonable. It's almost understandable. So until we can clarify this to make it a little simpler for everybody to understand, maybe reduce a little bit of it, there's no reason to go ahead and pass it as it is. It's not right, so let's not pass it. Thank you.
Okay. There's been questions on the fraud. Do going to be run the same way the draw is. It's going to be the same draw, same everything. So the fraud question has never come up during the draw, and it's a protected system the way it is. So fraud will be minimal, the way I see it, non-existent.
I think it would reduce the risk of it, just because right now we have to have 2 people over 4 days or 2 people over 2 days make 4 calls, and that opens the door when it's a manual process for abuse more than if it's automated and built into the system that only the next person is going to be eligible for the tag who has checked the box. But
Okay, and then the other point being brought up is exclusion of the paper applications. The way I see it, we're not excluding anybody. The person that chooses to put the paper application is excluding themselves. If they want to get into that second draw, they can get a buddy to help them online or do whatever they want. They're excluding themselves by doing a paper application. Commissioner McNinch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I agree. The vast majority of what's the paperwork in front of us is existing language. It's not like it's new stuff. A lot of the corrections a lot of the notations that are in there are clarifications, and we probably put in as much, taken out as much language as has been put in, because we're introducing a new concept here. So I have a lot less problem with the confusion and stuff. It's existing language. It's what's been in there for the most part. And I'd prefer to look at it a little differently in this particular case. We're opening an opportunity for 96% of the sportsmen out there that are out there, and I recognizing that maybe the other situation was a little different in that you do exclude people. They haven't been excluded from the general hunt stuff, the initial go-round. They're just not going to have the opportunity to participate in an alternate list. So I don't have a problem with the proposal. I think it's a good step.
Commissioner McBeth.
I echo Chairman Robb and Commissioner McNinch's comments. Would just like to, again, on the 14 business days, I'd actually like to see it be 15 business days, understanding that if we do have a holiday, that there will be one additional day for that. I'd rather err on that side, give them, a little bit more time. It's not much. So that would be my only comment, but I will not let that get in the way of supporting this motion if people want to just go with the 14 business days.
Commissioner Drew.
I just simply have a question, and that would be of Maureen or Don. If we were to strike the electronic requirement, all the regulation really says is that you're going to create an alternate list, correct? It doesn't necessarily specify a mechanism for how you handle the alternate once that tag is awarded. I mean, it says you'll take the first person off the list, but I don't know where it says how you'll do that.
I thought it said we'll issue the tag immediately, but which we could not do if we're going to strike out the electronic. I'd say.
So it'd have to be like immediately upon payment,
go back and kind of rethink this if that's the direction to go. So.
If you were to strike electronic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything? Commissioner Maureen.
Different portion of this that we hadn't really addressed, I know was brought up a little bit yesterday, and that is page 12 here. It's a portion about a person or a person to whom the holder is related within the third degree of consanguinity or affinity dies, and the same with disability. If you're going to go ahead and pass the rest of the regulation, I don't really see the purpose of this being as additions to this portion of the regulation. I mean, the portion of you can return for any reason covers that. Now you're extending it out, 14, 15 days before that. So, why add more regulation if we don't need it? I don't see that as being necessary. We're already covered under any return for any without giving a reason.
May I make a comment to that? On page 7, section 3, 502-422, that language is already there in regards to big game tags. That came about way back when the commission came forward, I think the public came forward with a petition to add family members to the death, medical, and military return of tags, so that not just the hunter had to have those reasons. And so when we took the language to LCB says, so what's the definition of a family member? Well, the legal definition of a family member deals with consanguinity. And because the public wanted to take it to grandparents and great-grandparents, well, that's to the third degree of consanguinity. And to affinity includes your in-laws. So that is legal terminology. It's already established in NAC. The reason we added it to the restricted non-resident guided portion is to make the language consistent throughout, because this may be a long regulation, but it's compiled of different sections within NAC 502. And then that way, if someone calls me, I can go right to the section and have all of the language in there. It was LCB's suggestion to make it consistent through the sections. If you'd like to remove it, that'd be fine, but because it's a big game tag, even though it's a restricted non-resident guided tag, we still will handle that client in the same fashion to the third degree of consanguinity if it happens to be a family member that died or had the medical issue or whatever. But it's just housekeeping and clarification.
Okay. Commissioner Macbeth.
I was going through my notes here, and I have one other item I just wanted to discuss and get clarification on. And I think this is in other areas as well, but I'm on page 8 of the regulation, up at the top. I'm going back to that received by. The tag is received by the department at least one day before the opening day of the season. And I'm just curious how we're interpreting this in two respects. One, what if, if you do get mail on Saturday, but nobody's here? So is received by really a business day received by? Should we add business day? The second thing is it physically, or how can you do it by fax?
You can't turn your tag in by fax.
You can't fax it in with a cancellation on top of it or anything?
No, because they're still in possession of the tag. We have to have the actual tag come in.
So that answers that. But so I guess I'm just curious as to the received by. Is it a business day or
It's
is
a
it
date stamp business, and if you want to add business day, then you could put the word business in at least one business day in if that's an option for you. The change to received by came about from a client who called and said, well, I've returned my tag. It's in the mail to you. And historically, it's always been handled as a received because it was returned by the opening day.
Yeah,
and it was interpreted as received by. So this clarification is to make that perfectly clear. It's a received by, not just because it's in the mail, it's returned.
And I'm just making the additional, because the U.S. mails are delivered on Saturdays and you guys aren't open on Saturday, you technically may be receiving it, but I think you want to say received by on a business day, and so that way you're covered. If anybody tries to raise that issue. And I do want to point out, it's not just there. I think that language is in other parts of the regulation, and so my comment is with respect to all places in the reg.
Okay. Commissioner Lane.
I was reading through this last night, and my question is, for example, I'm sorry. I was reading through this last night, and on section 1C, where you've added bear, if an applicant is applying for a tag, and then there's another area where you talk about adding, let's see, on page 8, under 5, if the tag is for antelope, bighorn, sheep, and you've added mountain goat, bear, and turkey. Is that a housekeeping issue, or are you actually adding those to the alternate list by this regulation?
It's both. It's both housekeeping so that we can include them on those alternate lists if they turn their tags in for any reasons, yes. So that we can get them to, those people who have those species tags and they're turning them in for any reason, get them to an alternate.
Commissioner Drew.
Yeah, not to keep digging into a can of worms, but on page 6, I think it talks about the provision for awarding tags to an alternate list. Number 3 up at the top, it says, except as otherwise provided in subsection 4, in awarding tags from an alternate list for a hunt, the department shall issue the tag to the eligible applicant appearing on the list who A, has the drawing number with the highest priority, and B, indicated the applicant's first choice area and season for which the quota is being filled. So if we go purely electronic, the advantage is that we have a credit card and we can immediately tag that. So in the case of a person who has a change to their credit card number, how would that be handled? And I guess where I'm going with this is how would that be handled any differently than a paper applicant with a check?
We would attempt to charge the card. Well, first of all, if they notify us that there's a change, we apply the changes to the file. So in that case, it wouldn't be an issue. If we attempt to charge the card and we're unsuccessful, which could happen at any time for any reason, then we would proceed as usual with collecting that money. The difference, I think, is that we have no vehicle to do it with a paper applicant. We have a vehicle that works 98% of the time or 97% of the time with the credit cards. So it's trading a bigger problem for a smaller problem, I guess.
So there would be no way to,
I think
I mean, if you didn't have a
in our
valid,
proposal, I think we actually made a statement, if we were unsuccessful charging it at the time, we'd proceed to the next person, as I recall. I don't know if that made it into this, but that was in my original
Part of the
proposal.
support material.
Yeah. In my original proposal, we said we'd roll right on. If we couldn't, we'd attempt to charge it immediately and we'd roll right on.
Commissioner McBeth.
Just as a follow-up, when a person's credit card information changes, expiration date, for instance, can I go on my personal information on your system and change that by myself, or do I have to call you?
You'd have to call us. In terms of the expiration date, we don't normally accept an expiration date that wouldn't allow us to proceed, but more frequently what happens is somebody has a problem with that card, or their bank consolidates with another bank and they get a new number issued to them, not even at their desire, that just happens, or there's a divorce, or there's some other change of status that causes the credit card number to change, and then they have to notify us and we correct the credit card for that application or that tag or that license.
Okay, but your system doesn't have the capability for them to do that unilaterally. They have to actually call. Is there a reason why they can't go and update their personal
It
information?
has to do with our authority to store credit cards in some circumstances, but not others, basically.
Because I have seen that. I've been able to update my personal credit card information on other systems.
Yeah, and some of those have been grandfathered by PCI, but we were basically our authority that we've been told by PCI as to how we can store credit cards.
It's a one and done.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, Maureen found the language.
It would be a one attempt and done. If
Okay,
it's denied, then it would automatically move on.
so one attempt to contact the person if they've had.
Process the credit card.
Process
One
the card.
attempt.
So if your card information's changed, you're out and you're
Yep.
on to the next app.
Correct. And
Unless it
again,
was
all of
updated.
this was designed to try and compress the time frame so that we could squeeze through the number of tags that people want to do. Now, one of the problems we have is that when we run credit cards at night, like when we first run the draw and a week later we submit the credit card charges, those will run for 36 hours because of the volume of them. When the ones that run at night, we find we bounce into the backup times of various banks. And so 10 or 15% of the cards will belly up the first time out. And it's because we're hitting the time that they take their systems offline to give settlement or to give approval. And we don't see that as happening during the daytime when an operator would be applying, or the system would be attempting the charge, because that's not when they do their backup. So we feel like we're not going to have that problem we have now, where I just get a denial. It doesn't even say come back later. It just says denied, same as if your card was no longer valid, or if it was over its credit limit. It looks for all the world the same to us when their bank is down.
Okay, the things that haven't been discussed about this is one of those items that's 4 years in the making. It's something I wanted a long time ago when we never got there. And, the statement has been made that it's not broken, don't fix it. Well, we have a lot of sportsmen sitting at home, and we have a lot of tags turned in. So if we have 700 sportsmen when we get in the field, I think there's something broken. And that's why I've been pushing for this for a long time. Like I said, if Jim Jeffers and I would have been able to stay on the commission, we would have had this discussion 4 years ago. We didn't get it there. I want to get it there now. I want to get those 700 sportsmen into the field. And that's the whole push behind this is if we have tags, let's get people using them. So that's my comment. Any other discussion? I'll call for a motion. What's that? Hey, we've had public comment.
I'll take a shot at it. Move to approve Commission General Regulation 420 LCB file number R159-12 and to approve it as presented by the department with the following changes included. On page 8, where it says at least 1 day, I would like that to say at least 1 business day. And then at the bottom of page 8, also in section, it'd be section 5 there, it says 1 day, and we'd make that also 1 business day. And I think the rest of them say business days, if I'm not.
Page 13.
Page 13.
13. Okay, and then on page 13 as well, there's at least 1 day, and to make that say at least 1 business day. I believe that was the only changes that we talked about yesterday, so that would be my motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Commissioner Rain?
Thank you. Couple problems with this. Be brief. Gone over most of them before. First of all, this does not put our hunters in the field. That's the allocation versus pre-allocation. It's a simpler system. So that's shot down simply by we should be pre-allocating these based upon the amount of tags that have been returned, now that we know, have a good idea. The other is the one and done shot hitting credit card has a lot of concerns. I mean, every time somebody has any problem with their card, it's a real concern currently. With current system, you're giving people a lot of maximum chance to keep their place in line, shall we say. And this, we're not. This should be refined a little more before we do that, so give them a little more shot at it. Rather than just hitting the 90-some-odd%, we need to get as high as we possibly can on that. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion?
Just one comment on that. Personal responsibility has a lot to do in the world today, and it doesn't always get used. And if it's important to me and I'm in the draw, I'm going to make sure that my credit card, the expiration date is updated with Dawn, and any number changes are going to be updated. Anything else is beyond all of our control. If the bank denies it for some other reason, hopefully it's because they stopped some fraud on your card or something like that. But I think there needs to be some personal responsibility. We can't just always say that we have to have everybody accounted for on things like this. I think that goes a long way. So that's why I'm in support of this. Thank you.
Any other comments? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
We have 7-2, Lane and Rain against. Okay, before we move on to the next agenda item, let's take a break. Come back at 10:15.